Rainbow Six Siege is a fantastic FPS that features gripping action, intense destruction, and a wide range of creative and unique characters and elements that keep the game feeling fresh and new. And I haven't touched it in months until very recently. It's funny to me how drastically a game can switch from being so exciting to dull, frustrating, or just feeling off due to a new character or a new or altered ability. It happened in Overwatch and League of Legends, where certain reworks have made certain heroes either too time-consuming to learn or are so brain-dead easy that you can easily stomp the competition. And this has happened again for me with Siege. The different roles have made it clear to me that certain operators are either too necessary for a successful match or too specific to be mained. And having that kind of balance maintained can be incredibly difficult. So when I felt the urge to play a team-based esport-esque shooter again, I returned to the king. Counter-Strike is a game that I was only introduced to in the recent decade, because growing up I had a Dell XP that struggled running Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed at a constant 12 frames per second, and I wasn't allowed to play any game featuring any sort of violence, hence why my PC copy of the Italian Job was taken from me due to my parents' determination that the game cover featured an execution-style murder. Here, you can judge for yourself. But CS has been, for me, a person growing up primarily with consoles, an enigma of a franchise. I knew of its existence, and to some extent, of its shares of controversies, but it wasn't until I got my first true performance PC, an Alienware M14X, where I was able to purchase and play CSGO. At the time of purchase, I didn't really get all the hype, and because of my bland experience, I didn't bother checking out 1.6 and would return to playing TF2 with friends. It wouldn't be until late 2015 that I would become enamored with the game. CSGO is in an odd place because compared to its competition, it's not necessarily the best looking, nor the most advanced or dynamic. But Global Offensive does have one thing that makes it still one of the most played games on Steam, and that is simplicity. You don't have to worry about drones, abilities,
This Junkrat!
heavy destruction, or ultimates. The only danger you have to worry about is the skills of your rival. Because while some guns are objectively more powerful than others, it all depends on who has the better accuracy, map awareness, or luck, with the only outlying factor being the bomb. What I love especially is how focused each gun and equipment's role has in the scope of the game. How spray patterns, gun mechanics, and uses all differ from one another and dramatically change depending on movement and accuracy. The M4A1S has a slower firing rate and does less damage, but is more accurate, comes equipped with a silencer, and is $200 cheaper than the A4, meaning you can get the drop on someone quickly while they're trying to pinpoint your location. The scoped guns may have the same roles as the regular ARs, but with the benefit of an ADS, with the drawback being more expensive. Grenades can be used to hinder an advance or nab a sweet Kobe, but they can also be used as a distraction or as an impromptu smoke grenade. The R8 might be insanely slow to fire and has a near useless alt-fire mode, but it makes for a great long-range weapon when you need it. SMGs are for rushing, shotguns are for ruining, and the CZ exists. Weapons have their roles and might be better in certain situations, but not one single weapon outweighs another. And in conjunction with the right team, you and your group can be forced to reckon with. Communication is key, and the right callouts and planning can make or break your team's flow. And like the guns, there is no strat that outweighs the others. You don't need to have a 3A, 2B, 1 mid layout in order to win. You don't need to rush me, do not stop my friends, in order to one-up the CTs. Smokes can be expended for advancements, but they can also be used to disorient or secure a win. And like Siege, just because there is only one player left doesn't mean that they'll go down easy. This combination of mechanics and teammates keeps matches feeling fresh and new, where despite the game feeling largely unchanged, no two matches feel the same. Fuck.
I don't think he's on.
The core of the game is simple, but features multiple little dynamics that make it so unique that it doesn't need to feature abilities or chase trends. Even newer modes share this same simplicity. About 2 years ago, CSGO was updated to feature a brand new Battle Royale mode called Danger Zone.
Oh my god, I'm gonna be chucked into a black hole, I'm gonna be chucked into oblivion.
Now wait, hold on, don't boo this just yet. I agree, the amount of Battle Royale games is absurd. And for people like me who've played PlayerUnknown's and was like, yep, I'm good, Battle Royale games are a hard sell. But I would argue that Danger Zone does it right. First is the size of the maps. While the maps are big, they're only big compared to the other maps in the game. It's not like some giant Arma style map where it feels too big most of the time. Second, instead of dealing with about 100 people, there are only 18. This keeps matches very short, so you don't have to feel like you're slogging through a boring match waiting for a circle to get small enough to run into your enemy. Plus, as the game goes on, you can gain access to better equipment, but not in the way that you think. You can find guns and equipment throughout the maps, but you can find money. This money, whether you earned it by finding it or killing enemies, can be used to access areas locked where you might find something, or you can order guns and equipment via a derpy drone. This also presents a new tactic of either shooting down someone's drone to take their stuff, or following that drone to a person's location. For someone that really isn't into Battle Royale modes, this is actually one of the most fun game modes that has been added to CS. It trims the fat and creates a slimmer interpretation of the oversaturated genre. There are also two other great game modes added in, Scrimmage and Wingman. While you can play the main Defuse game mode via the casual playlist, it isn't exactly the same thing. Team damage is off, you can clip through your teammates unless you're boosting, and a few other things. Scrimmage is the main competitive game mode, but it doesn't affect your rank. This is actually a pretty big deal as it allows newcomers to try out the game's main mode without the risk of ruining someone else's experience. The other mode is Wingman. Basically, this is just ranked competitive, but 2v2s rather than 5v5s. Wingman gets its own ranking system, so you can be one rank in the regular comp and another in Wingman. Though the mode isn't necessarily for me, it is a lot of fun and I highly recommend checking it out, primarily with a friend. Of course, this is CSGO, and you don't have to play the main game modes. There are plenty of other game modes like Deathmatch and Arms Race, but there are also third-party servers with a plethora of game modes and workshop maps that completely flips the main game on its head. Classics like TTT, Prop Hunt, Infection, B-Hop, Surfing, and many, many other game modes add in a whole new level of content. And the best part? Global Offensive is free now, so you have access to all these added community-created content for no extra charge. Granted, so is TF2, which also features the same level of content, but at least there is more options for players to choose from. As great and enjoyable CSGO is, there have been some pressing issues over its lifetime. For one is being free to play. Originally the game had a paywall of $15. This did two things. It was an affordable figure for people who wanted to play the game, and it punished bad apples. VAC bans forced cheaters to purchase the game again on a separate account. This was seen as a positive, as cheaters would become more and more disinterested in purchasing the same game again and again. It didn't fully stop the problem, but it made it more difficult for cheaters. But now that it's free, the tables have turned. Because the game is free now, cheaters can simply switch or create new accounts and simply re-download CSGO to continue their game-wrecking spree. So if you are new to CSGO and start playing competitive, you might be slaughtered by cheaters all the time. Of course, there is a deterrent that Valve did implement just before the game went free to play, and that is Prime Matchmaking. Prime is a service you can pay a one-time $15 for that matches you with other Prime users. This means that you will have the possibility of not being matched with or against cheaters. This works by linking your phone number to your Prime. So if you cheat in Prime and you try to set up a new account with Prime, you will be blocked from doing so unless if you have another phone number with you. You can also have the possibility of getting drops post-game. This system isn't foolproof though, as there are times where people will still cheat on Prime. There's a reason why services like Faceit and ESEA have exploded in popularity. A history of questionable updates have also had a negative impact on the game.
The guy that I headshotted through my friend, I did 285 damage.
Whoa.
What?
Two of the most infamous being the reworks on the scoped rifles and the introduction of the R8 revolver. And more recently, a controversial update has shaken the game once again. In January of this year, Valve decided to remove bots from the game. Bots would come in when a player was either disconnected or kicked from the game. Players still in the game would be able to take control of the bot if they died. This allowed a team lacking one or more people to still fight back, and sometimes even carry over to victory. However, with the removal of bots, the game has become quite different. Here's what happens now. So if a player disconnects, the next round immediately triggers a 2-minute technical timeout. If the person doesn't join back, the game starts. If the player doesn't join back in the next 2 rounds, that team receives an extra $1,000 per round. However, you do not get the extra $1,000 if you kick someone. I get that bots were kind of dumb as shit and would not listen to you if you try to tell them to hold this position, but here's the thing. At least it was another body. Listen, Valve, I know you're up there and you're listening to this. You're probably not, but you're listening to this. A 4v5 is still a 4v5. That team will be at a major disadvantage. An extra $1,000 will not do much. Also, why the fuck do we punish the team for kicking someone now? What if that person was a troll, jerk, or cheater? Oh, you got queued with some fuckhead rando that's making your experience terrible? How dare you? Get fucked, surrender, and de-rank, dork. There's also the other major point of contention. One that has been such a big debacle that at one point it got the FCC and many governments involved. Skins. Customization in this game has been an ever-exploding macrocosm since their introduction. I say macro because, let's be frank for a moment, you simply cannot brush it aside anymore. Agents, gloves, guns, music kits, skins, name tags, graffiti. There is a ton in options of what you can do to personalize your game. Of course, this does come at a cost, and unlike most free-to-play games, the cost isn't necessarily dictated by the developer. The community market is a place on Steam where you can get lost in the amount of changing prices, fluctuations, and nosedives. Guys, it's literally the stock market! Valve has somehow created a mini Wall Street for a video game! You know what? Fuck it! Fuck it! Let's ruin the market! Let's fuck him up. You know what? Fuck Anomaly. Fuck Anomaly in his mask. Let's invest in griffins. No, wait, that was already done. Everyone invest in this graffiti. Some baller out there, please buy all the graffiti in this game. Make this price soar to the moon. Woo!
In the chat.
I'm trying to see if this pissed.
And they didn't score.
Anyway, all of the cosmetic items in CSGO are priced based on the rarity and popularity of an item, and that can also be dictated by certain patterns, wares, or other characteristics of that skin. These cosmetics can range from as little to a few cents to, well, Jesus Christ. This might be a massive issue for many players, and I don't blame them. I would love to run around with Sapphire and Ruby butterfly knives for CTMT respectively, but I would definitely not want to spend over $20,000 for pixels and animations. And annoyingly, this is by design. Valve knew what they were doing and have made it mathematically improbable for people to unbox the good stuff.
Which means that mil-spec items, the blue ones, are 80% chance, purples are 16% chance, pinks are 3% chance, reds are only 0.63% chance, and the knives or gloves, the special rare item, is 0.25% chance.
This is one of the most unfortunate and in many ways vile ways to introduce microtransactions to a game. And yet, this might be one of the most sensible. You're an idiot! Hear me out for a moment, because while this might be a terrible system on many levels, there is some level of defense for it. For one is what the skin economy has brought in, and that is business. Because Valve keeps their API open for all, people have created all sorts of websites dedicated to skins. Trade bots, item databases, and marketplaces have spawned. Of course, there are some businesses with some shady and illegal tendencies. What Team Martin, Pro Syndicate, and this massive list of other content creators did to promote gambling to their young audiences was indefensible. But those trying to run an honest business have succeeded in offering people new opportunities and even creating jobs in the process. Trading has become a major part of the economy as well. Originally conceived in TF2, trading in CSGO is a massive deal in the inner workings of the community. And if you're really dedicated and good at it, or you predicted the future, you can make a profit or even a life out of it. For two, it supports artists. If a skin gains enough votes and is put into the game, the artist is compensated by Valve directly. While it's not known exactly how much the artist makes, one designer slipped that his 5 skins that made it into the game netted him a healthy $200,000, while other designers whose skins have made it into the game allegedly earn even more than that. So while the competition is there and it can be difficult to even get into the game, you are supporting the artwork of independent designers rather than a board team. Lastly, probably the most prosumer move on cosmetic microtransactions. Let's say you're done with the game. You want to move on to something else, but you feel guilt-ridden because you have built up your inventory so much. In most games, you'd be stuck with the reality of knowing you've spent so much, never to get it back. With the case of CSGO, you can either sell your stuff on the market for credit on Steam, go to a site like BitSkins and sell your skins for real money, or, if you trust them, you can sell your skins to a buyer with no commission to any third party. I know that CSGO skins have gotten a pretty bad rap, and for a lot of good reasons, but Valve seems to have done microtransactions right, which is to give the tools and let the community spearhead the growth and give options for people to either enjoy, profit, or both. Blue, can you grab my op-in market? You're fine. That was very rude of you.
I can buy you an
I can hear your laughter. Don't you dare hide it from your microphone.
Hey man, she's just trying to have a good time.
I know, I'm giving her a hard time because it's really funny.
I couldn't buy you.
No, it's fine.
I meant to press F to look at the skin, but I ended up pressing G instead.
This is a classic gamer move. CSGO has been the staple of the competitive shooter for about 8.5 years, and many have tried to emulate its success to varying degrees. It's pretty incredible that after, 22 years now, that this game, despite all the possibilities of change, the competition from imitators, and the temptation to move on to a new format, CS has remained at its core the same game since inception, and still capable of garnering more players. It's very rare, if possible, for a game to be ageless and changeless at its core. I get it though. Siege is also a fantastic competitive shooter, and I also have fun with that game too. But as that game, and games like it, drastically change with new operators, reworks to existing operators, new maps, CSGO will remain the same. And that, for me, is very appealing.